Hello and welcome back, everybody, as we are here to continue on. Like I said, we're going to have a little bit of a pivot since that first game was so fast. And for those that are tuning back in or coming back from getting food and drink, yeah, the score right now is 2 Timeless, 1 Afterlife, where, as I mentioned before the break, it was a full held on Rialto, and Timeless really stepped up here. And now we're going into Esperanza, which, again, on this push map, really curious to see what both these teams are going to bring to the mix here to see if Timeless is able to close this out, or we find ourselves on a map 5.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because it looks like Hollywood was a 2-1 win for Afterlife, which tells me that there was maybe like a lot of Winston play. We heard from Juby, like Winston's kind of the pick on that map, and it looked like it was a pretty big win for Afterlife on that one. And Esperanza is also a map where we see like a lot of that Winston being played. It's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit sometimes on a map like this, where teams will just handshake, Junker Queen comps or Matra compositions and stuff like that. But we can also take a look at the rosters of both of these teams. Afterlife, again, coming off that huge upset yesterday against Wisp, our number 1 seed. And this is a team, I mean, with a lot of pedigree to it, I think, right? You have Zira and Haven and Rhino, all players from kind of, that previous Odyssey squad. They are very, very successful in Contenders. The backline also looks very coordinated in its own right. So this Afterlife team, nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah, they've melded very well with what we've seen so far from Haven, Zira, and Rhino, and the contribution that they have. And again, it's really great to see both Haven and Zira continue to do their thing back on broadcast again for us, as we can take a look at the opposing side, which is Timeless, who does have the advantage and is finding themselves on a match point, Kenobi.
On match point here. I mean, this team is also full of a lot of really big names, and Kuffa being the big one. I know our producer Jay very happy to see Kuffa, being on stream again. The main tank of Team Australia, but I think Wub also. Again, I think this is something that is, when we look at like the current meta and like how prevalent Hanzo is starting to become, there are a lot of sneakily good Hanzos that are kind of that like haven't been able to play too much of it in the recent years because of the way the meta has gone. Wub is one who, if Hanzo's viable, boy howdy is Wub gonna be viable in their own right. Their Hanzo play is just absolutely out of this world, so he's someone that we have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and we've seen all the Wubheads in the chat. They are just chanting the name, waiting to see multi-kills coming through. So that's something I'm going to definitely be keeping a watchful eye of as we're entering into this push map, which, again, looking forward to seeing that. We had a 3-0 out the gate, at least for now, so we've not had that thus far yet in NA, so we get a little bit more Overwatch for you. And again, always accruing those skins for you, which is a great little added value for you for tuning in. Is there still time for you as well? I know that it might not be us, me and Kenobi, for much longer since we do the handoff soon for you, but you can definitely also make sure that you get those hashtag OWPTP 2023 for you to have us potentially chit chat a little bit about it as we're entering into this next map.
Yeah, we want to hear your thoughts, obviously, chat. Your thoughts are so important to us.
They really do matter. I mean, they really do. For me, I don't feel there's as much validation without them. I just love being able to have them on this broadcast in that bottom right. And then it also gives us a little detour of conversation, maybe spark some interest in another area of our lives or something.
Boy, do we need it sometimes. We need to be veered off of the path that we're on. That's something we definitely need.
So tried and true. There it is. Again, OWPTP 2023. I always joke about it. I know it's Path to Pro, but it's like, please tweet people. Like, come on. Like, it still works out. Acronyms work. I love them. It's terrible. I swear. One of these days you're going to slap me in person, and I know it.
I had the chance recently, but I didn't do it. So
you chose not to. We were just so elated and everything. But yes,
I should have after you got me sick from Jack in the Box. So.
Oh, you know what? Let's not talk about it. I know there's a lot of good food there still. It might not have been good for you, but it was good for me. As we enter in to see what there is going to be a hover specifically for this compositional selection, I would love to see this Junker Queen come out the gate. Kuffa, just so prolific. The amount of dominance that they have, and this, I love that camera pan too. Our obs just had that slow, steady, like, we know, Rich Rad, we know that you want to see it.
And I mean, this is a map where we can see it, I think, as well. It's been a map where we've started to see a lot more of the Junker Queen, and especially against, like, the Winston compositions, because you can't really, step up to a Junker Queen face-to-face, right? Junker Queen will just take your head off if you're a Winston. So Afterlife, you're going to have to play very patiently around this first point, with the bot. They're going to want to try and poke and prod as much as they can, see if they can find a pick. But if not, really going to be looking forward to Pink trying to see if they can farm up towards that nano boost and then have that be the engagement. But Haven already forced out, so this might be a time where Timeless has a little bit of an advantage. We can still see where the Sombra is, and now they can start again.
Yeah, it was very, very quick having to force the translocate and reposition. You can see that Afterlife playing more defensively here as Timeless rounds the corner near the bot towards the barricade. Not really been dislodged just yet. Doomed already at that halfway point for the pulse bomb even, so that they can utilize that with how fast it's being generated. Haven underneath in the doorway, keeping a watchful eye. Nice Bionade to land for the moment to deny with the healing, as you do see this regroup and still in this neutral area.
Yeah, I mean, they have to be very careful here. Timeless are starting to take that positioning away. Pink is getting close towards that nano boost, 70%. Needs to find a way to get it soon as they're getting cloaked down. Doomed, though, Grapes comes over and helps out a little bit, but Rhino goes way too aggressively there without the help of the rest of the team, and the Winston's dead.
Yeah, that's so unfortunate. Now they're going to get progress underneath this archway, putting it into a position of where they can maintain this high ground, really, on this bridge, and be able to just continue to cause problems for Afterlife.
And a lot of this neutral was really won, I think, by Doomed, who was just continuously in the backline, putting down pressure, also putting down pressure onto Haven as well, because Haven had a really rough time getting into these fights because Doomed was always consistently there checking the Sombra, and now Afterlife can come back in, try and re-engage. Nano is going to be available for Pink this time, so you can throw it onto the Winston and try and regain some meterage.
Oh, what a hack onto Doomed, though. That was instantaneous responsiveness and just completely eliminating them from the equation. That's going to give some space and some breathing room for Afterlife.
And you're also able to save the nano boost as well, so now you can, once this gets back to even, you can use the nano boost onto Rhino and get a nice engagement in the open area.
Speaking of nano boost in the open area, that's exactly what happens. Rhino jumping onto the back, nice hack onto Kuffa for the moment, continuing to force them around the corner. Wub is being aggressed on for the moment, but Rhino is left in the open. There's no real supports near in plain sight, and that's again Rhino caught out in the open.
The supports just simply weren't there. I mean, the LOS was just not there. A bit of miscommunication potentially, as I think now Afterlife just have to scramble. They're all just completely out and about. The pulse bomb comes through, not gonna be able to find anything. EMP actually committed from Haven. Is the follow-up there? It is.
Able to clean up onto two. Great responsiveness. Timeless now at this point, continuing to just try and cause some harassment, dwindle the time for now, since the bot is still in their favor. Kuffa goes down. So this will be a little bit of distance gained with Afterlife, but at least there was enough time bought for Timeless to get back.
Really gutsy call, though, from Haven to buy back into that one with an EMP, and the follow-up was really well played from Afterlife as they'll start moving the bot forward. Kuffa coming in with that Junker Queen ultimate. There is no Suzu on the other side, so the Rampage is going to be able to hit pretty free, but Grapes is going to be there with that Lucio. Soundbarrier at the ready to be able to help through all of those wounds.
High ground now being obtained by Kuffa. Also to keep it contested for the moment as the rest of Afterlife staggers away. Nice pickup again with Haven onto Doom. We've seen this a second time now. Rhino primaling down that stairway, juggling the Lucio for days. Greed is barely surviving and gets underneath, and Rhino cannot get the final pickup here. They've managed to draw them back far enough so they do gain the distance advantage and are just starting to continue moving this forward, but Kuffa still has this Rampage, Sound Barrier, and Overclock available. And you can see that Afterlife has to respect this as they still continue to harass down below.
But the flankers are still able to push down a little bit. Overclock comes in from Wub just to try and zone him out, but the bubble is super well placed by Rhino. They're negating a lot of the value from it. As also the nano comes in. Wub is almost dead.
Wow, Greed gets the Sound Barrier out in time. Like sliver of health on Wub. Keeps him topped up, maintained, and now they can play back towards this middle position and look to continue gaining some distance of themselves. And a pulse bomb even goes wide by 0. Ooh, Rampage up towards the stairs. Oh my! Must have been potentially a disconnect or a pause of some sort in that, as we will give them a hot second.
It only hit one, too. That Rampage did not hit Paydirt. It only hit Grapes. I mean, yes, the Sound Barrier is going to be forced out, but that's not what you wanted from that Rampage, especially with how long Kuffa has been holding on to it. I think as we saw Timeless coming into that fight, they are going to have a Kitsune Rush available to them if they continue to take this fight, but it is going to be very, very difficult, especially when EMP is so close from Haven.
And yeah, there's a definite ping issue right now. They're trying to resolve in it as we are just giving it a moment or so that they can get that potentially settled for right now. And yeah, that's a massive loss. The only thing that they really have to utilize into this is going to be Cal with the Kitsune Rush. They've got the Pulse Bomb as well from Doomed approaching, so there are some things that they can work with, but that is still a slight blunder as we can look at it.
It looks like we actually have been resolved in the situation. It looks like, I mean, I think that we are going to be going back into this relatively soon. Yep, we've got the timer. Ping issues have been fixed, and we'll be going right back into the action.
Yep, as you can see now, that it is still Timeless up top. Unfortunately, losing Wub. Cal sticking close, but it's going to be Rhino gaining some decent harassment and disruption as they clean this up. Afterlife not able to stay strong here, as you will have Timeless be sent back to the spawn.
Timeless don't really get anything off of that rampage, and I wonder now if we see any swaps. I think this is where, like, the Junker Queen isn't going to be working anymore, and you have to make something happen here. So it is going to be going back over to the Winston. I think Cal will eventually go over to the Ana, but Kitsune Rush is just an ultimate that you don't want to give up for free, so they're going to use it to try and re-engage into here. But EMP available from Haven. This is going to be a very, very difficult engage for Timeless to maneuver around.
EMP Haven, that's a 1-2 punch. Pink goes down though as well, so it's a 1-for-1 support trade, but once again, Rhino unable to handle all that incoming focus. Sends them back with Cuffin out onto the Winston instead of going to be sticking onto that Junker Queen.
And I mean, that was an ultimate that, you know, that was an EMP that Afterlife used and that just didn't end up working for them. And Haven actually is going to get, I think, staggered here unless they end up going. The flankers from Afterlife are trying to zone out the backline here, but throughout all of this, Timeless are just moving it forward.
Yep. You can see that realistically though, it's only a small margin. That's like the most saving grace aspect here for Timeless to get back into this, that it's only just a few subtle meters, as you can see with the picture-in-picture. Zura in the back looking to regroup. This high ground is utter chaos right now, but the Pulse Bomb looking to be stuck. Hesitancy until the best chance, as you do have the Kitsune Rush weaving around. Afterlife gonna have Zura focus with the recall back up top. No real value. Pulse Bomb goes wide. Even a boop that knocks out Kuffa, so they're nowhere near the explosion radius. And now Rhino comes in, raging fists, knocking them about, and just once again deny Timeless from taking the distance advantage.
Yeah, Pink has gotten a lot of value so far on this Ana, and now I would like to see actually Timeless swap over to it themselves. It looks like Cal is actually going to be sticking onto the Kiriko just to offer a little bit more of that fast-paced play and dive potential. But with how good Pink has been so far, just being on those high grounds, getting value with the Ana, it's something Timeless is going to have to deal with. If not, Pink is going to get a lot of value.
Now, you can see below, Doomed and Wub looking to try and utilize these ultimates. Kuffa also having the Primal Rage available. EMP onto the support. What a massive assist with that nano boost, but unfortunately, Grapes cannot gain it. You can have just the assistance here onto Rhino as well. Countered back and forth. The kill feed lighting up with either side, and Zura gets some extra damage with Haven's assist here as they manage to take this back once again.
Really fantastic counter EMP coming in from Haven, and really good, I mean, plays, I think, from the entirety of Afterlife there. Staying alive. Yes, Pink gave his life eventually, but it was just the ability to throw that nano out, keep Grapes alive as well after the EMP was focused really on him. Now Afterlife, you know, give up the bot again, but they you know, take control of this high ground. But Haven actually ends up going down. Greed is able to find the better end of that, and that means there's no Sombra, and Timeless have a DPS advantage.
Yep, DPS advantage. They only have 8 meters to gain in this. If they can just force back to capitalize. Big Pulse Bomb from Doom onto Pink, and Grapes also finding the spawn timer as well. They now take over on that pack. They're going to be able to isolate and keep this space to their own, and they are able to take not only the advantage in distance, but will able to guarantee this checkpoint.
Yeah, this is a massive momentum swing throughout all of this, and you can see actually they're looking for someone in the backline. One of those flankers, Zura, is just trying to poke and prod as best they can here, but if Wub is able to get a hack, this is a free kill onto a Tracer.
Ding dang, they're in the ring. Who's going to be able to find this potential pickup onto Zura? There's the hack, nice dash out, and it's just continuing to keep Wub's focus away from this front line. Just constantly swiveling back and forth between the two. Has to force the translocate and looks to go back in.
See what these teams, sound barriers available to them.
Yep, Kitsune Rush now coming from down the stairway. Pulse Bomb, holstered, waiting. Could look for the supports if they drop down below, but health values are extremely low for Timeless. The sound barrier must come out from Greed to keep them going. Pulse Bomb not going to get nearly as much value as they would have liked with Cal and Greed, keeping this team alive. Doomed near that Pulse Bomb, looking for value if they can after the EMP has come through from Wub. And really now with the nano boost onto Rhino, it's just to keep him going underneath, but there's not really the best opportunity to switch this back over because Timeless is still controlling.
Really good boop as well from Greed, who knocks him off that high ground. If that nano jump had gotten onto the high ground like that, it would have been a disaster for Timeless. And Zura ends up going down to the Winston, and now Timeless can re-engage, take back control of this high ground. Primal is here for Kuffa. Grapes is down. Cal has gotten 2 in the back line.
And that's going to be only 35 seconds to go. The numbers will be able to favor Timeless at this moment. Afterlife is going to get one last attempt at this, and they not only have to get the distance advantage, but they have to go through a checkpoint.
And they're going to have to use EMP here if they want to be able to win this fight. And that's going to, I mean, they're going to have to win a lot of fights off the back of that EMP singing. They're going to have to really string them together, as Primal Rage is going to be able for Kuffa. Nice anti.
Ooh, jumping in though, has the Primal, gets a pick up onto Pink. Sorry, friendo. Those red fists are looking to beat down someone, and you were close enough in proximity. With Kuffa rounding to the back now, going to be able to get some damage as well with Cal onto Grapes. There's still some trays though from Afterlife. Haven and Rhino sticking through this as they are able to maneuver and stick towards it. But yes, with the healers not being available, it's going to be dire for them to swap this back. That bot is going to stay within this space for the moment, and even though it's Haven bobbing and weaving around it, the overtime will not last long as they continue to pick them off from Timeless.
Oh, and with this Kitsune Rush, there's no way that they're going to have the sustainability for this. Haven just trying their best. Cal able to take another one out, adding names continuously, and that's going to be Timeless taking the win here, 3-1 over the plucky upstarts of Afterlife, matching up against Saints in that winner's final.
It's gonna be a good one to see what moves on. Some worthy attempts here. I know we didn't get to see all of these maps, but this one, you know, for how close it was through a majority of this, it was still a good fight all around, as we do see the play so far gonna be Haven. Again, I love seeing Sombra play, especially on this map, the value that it can bring to it.
Ooh, be careful with that. People, no, a lot of people like the Sombra play.
I don't know. I know. I like to put my feet in the water and wonder if there's a shark nearby, so.
Well, there's a lot of piranhas, don't worry.
Yeah, sharks, piranhas,
as
whales,
a fellow someone who's put their feet in the pool, you know, person like that. There are some piranhas back here. This is sick though. This from Kuffa right here to dive into that back line. I mean, the EMP or the hacker unfortunately wasn't able to secure that kill, but I think after all of that, it was just Timeless really, I think, maneuvering well around these dives once they got off of the Junker Queen composition, where it felt like they had been downloaded a bit. Cal, I think, you know, I was questioning whether it was gonna, you know, they were gonna go back to the Ana. Cal going over to the Kiriko, I think, or sticking on the Kiriko rather, especially with how prolific we know Cal to be on Kiriko, definitely seemed to make sense, and Timeless take it 3-1.
The eliminations that were brought towards the end of it, able to get that type of advantage, was so necessary for them. Just everything starts to really come together after that adjustment, and I like it. They didn't wait until the last moment. They felt that there was still ample time for them to make that switch over to the Winston, which really yielded value. So hats off to them as a whole, and really, really excited for us to be able to have them play. No interview for now, because we've got another game coming up for you, my friends. It's been a pleasure, though, being a part of this Kenobi, doing some NA and EU today, which is exciting, but we won't be taking it much longer from you. We'll have Dora and Hurix taking you the rest of the way, so it's been a pleasure, friends, and stick around.
Tracer has quickly become one of the most popular heroes in high-level Overwatch 2. It takes insane mechanical skill, cerebral game sense, and ice in your veins to make impact plays with her, but these players make it look easy.
Maymon and Vestal are just playing off of each other perfectly.
W Maymon, by the way, found one who built that Transcendent. And a Pulse Bomb connects onto both Fuki and Turkey. W Maymon on this map, on Havana, truly has been next level.
And just as their eyes glance away, a Pulse Bomb connects to the back of their head. Canale and Cookie hit the dirt. Rocket trying. Rocket could be a hero in moments like these. Rocket saved the day again! Rocket's gonna chase him out too. Oh, and he Tracer gaps him. Yeah, Rocket's that guy right now.
incredible way to start us off.
You guys are in for a treat.
Salty is absolutely on a tear.
That is a huge shift of momentum. Oh my goodness. Gonna toss it right back.
Dive again, beautiful from Chime. But now is when things get hairy.
No more break. It's time for action. Welcome to Overwatch Contenders.
Hey, howdy, and welcome back, everybody. It was very kind of Rich and Kenobi to open up the show for us tonight here, because we get to stay up late like the big boys that we are. We don't have the bedtime here on the East Coast, so fortunately that means we get to catch a couple of very important matches. And I suppose one of which we actually just got to see. Timeless taking on Afterlife was, I mean, unsurprisingly good, but we were really curious how it would actually go, seeing as Afterlife has made a complete mess of this bracket.
Yeah, really thrown everybody for a loop. I mean, 8 seed taking down the 1 seed already on day 1. Now we move into day 2, and guess what? I mean, both of those teams find themselves in the lower bracket, and we'll be seeing both of them, Wisp and Afterlife. As you can see already, Pirates of Pajamas and Redbirds have made their exit, but those are the only 2 teams gone so far. Unfortunately for us, we're going to be waving goodbye to 2 more here in these next 2 games.
Feels kind of bad to have to do it, but at the same time feels kind of good to have this power decision. You know, you feel like judge, jury, and executioner here when you get to present the losses at the same time. But it also means we get to present some pretty big wins. That being said, I want to go back to something that was brought up the other day, and something that's come up every time that you and I've had the opportunity to talk to these players. It's that this tournament is really an any given Sunday tournament. Any given match is capable to be won by any given team. If a team goes on a tear, it can absolutely do it. It's about who's in form right now. And honestly, we thought it was just us at first. We thought, looking at the bracket, it was like, oh, you know, maybe this applies to all these teams. But no, the teams all think it too. They've all been scrimming for 2 weeks. So that is clearly proven itself to be true. On top of that, starting things off, though, one of those any given Sunday games is the one we've got up on our screens right now. Afterlife up against 0-3 Splash. For Hurix and I up first today. How you feeling about this one?
I'm feeling good, man. Obviously, we got a little bit of a look with 0-3 Splash yesterday. We got a little bit of a look with Afterlife today. So definitely a lot to look at, especially given the fact that we were kind of curious how things would look after 2 weeks. Well, Afterlife, the first team that we're going to take a look at here, they're definitely a team that I have to say absolutely improved since the last time that we saw them. And I mean, you look at this roster, and I have to say, it shouldn't be much of a surprise that this team was able to do so well in their first game of the tournament. I mean, we're talking about what is effectively former Contenders winners and players like Rhino. And obviously that combo of Zira and Haven that goes back to last year, and Pink even in that conversation as well. And then Grapes to round things out. This is already a solid team, and as they're hitting their stride now, it's looking to be quite impressive.
Yeah, this is bones of former Contenders organization being brought up from the dead into the Afterlife, right? So clearly they know what they're doing. The fact that they performed how they did was probably an underperformance more than it was that, and then them showing up now, like this feels more on par like what we should see out of this roster. And like you said, they've got firepower aplenty, especially the Rhino coming back into the fold, being supported by an excellent team, but they're going up against a team who is very in form right now in 0-3 Splash.
Yeah, 0-3 Splash, I think, really impressed us in particular yesterday because of the way that they were able to pull out all the stops. And you see what Cowman has been able to do, especially when you're talking about a team that, you know, getting into this particular meta and Cowman kind of just pulling every one of those roles and being able to compete, pulling out the Ramatra in maps where you would see some more of those kind of dive-centric things, and even Cowman still pulling the Winston. But outside of that, I mean, Lukewarm really had a great showing yesterday. Eiko, of course, is a player to keep your eye on, especially as we see a lot of that May come out. Those walls that we saw from him in yesterday's games as well were critical and very impactful in their ability to actually get to this position where they're moving forward in the lower bracket already.
And honestly, it feels like they have the potential to keep going there. For me, the question for 0-3 Splash is how consistently does that pop-off come? It took a couple of maps for Lukewarm to really heat up and start hitting those clutch plays. And when it was Lukewarm, it was kind of only Lukewarm coming up with the big ones. Obviously, we look at really consistent value coming out from especially Cowman and Eiko, who were making obscene amounts of space between the two of them. But when you're looking for that star player, when you need a play made, Lukewarm is pretty much the player to deliver on this team. And if Lukewarm is not doing exactly that, I could see O3 Splash struggling.
Yeah, we're getting ready to dive into map number 1 here as well. And as we continue to talk about this, I do want to highlight this map selection because Ilios is an interesting one, right? I mean, this is one where you often see, at least in like EMEA, this is a major counter pick for a lot of teams. I would say that's less so, though, for us here. And I think this is certainly one of the discrepancies between the two regions, between EMEA and NA, that Ilios is, I mean, definitely a map where we're going to see some interesting stuff come out, and you see a lot more of things like Pharas and Echoes come out. I would say, though, with these two teams, I'm a little bit more curious what kind of effect Cowman and Echo in particular are going to have on this type of map here for O3 Splash. And I wonder if there's maybe concerns there with this map that Afterlife are going to take advantage of.
Well, I think also Afterlife bring into the fold plenty of questions of their own. Rhino's hero pool is particularly wide amongst the tank players, but same goes for Cowman. They're just wide in different ways. Both of them, though, have at least a Winston in the back pocket to try and bring into the table. Ilios submaps as well can be pretty varied. I think we're going to see at least O3 Splash try and force Ramattra through on a couple of these maps. Then again, the order also brings a complete whole aspect of, random number generation into it, of what order do we actually get these submaps. Is one of those a little bit more favorable for O3 Splash than that slightly modified hero pool that you're talking about?
Yeah, of course, chat predictions in the chat right now. 1 for Afterlife, 2 for O3 Splash. Afterlife should be fresh on everybody's minds. Just got a quick little picture at what they're capable of. Yesterday we saw O3 Splash, so certainly there's no real, I mean, there's guesses in terms of who's going to come out ahead for sure, but in terms of what we're going to see, a little bit less so. We know these teams, we know what they're preparing for this. Now let's see them in action. Let's see them lock horns. It's the lower bracket. Keep that in your mind, because obviously Afterlife has already played one game today, and we heard yesterday, just how difficult it is sometimes. And in fact, it was O3 Splash in particular who mentioned this, just how difficult it is to go and play a tough match and a game where you feel like, oh, we probably could have won that, and then immediately go down into the lower bracket and compete for your life in the tournament. Now Afterlife is doing exactly what O3 Splash did manage to do yesterday.
That's exactly it. They've had 10 minutes to recover from the damage that was done to them by Timeless, and now they look to strike back. The map that was probably the most contentious of everything in terms of hero pools, in terms of what we were going to get between these two teams, has immediately come into play, though. That forces Cowman over to a Diva, not the traditional Daesh composition that we normally see on this map with the Winston that Afterlife are running, but certainly powerful in the right hands, and believe me, Cowman's the right hands.
You see a lot of pressure onto Rhino here for sure. Echo, Cowman have the ability to really lay in some bursts along with Lukewarm, so gotta keep your eye on Rhino. Looks like Grape's gonna be making a swap here as well. You're gonna have a little bit more protection. Afterlife, on the other hand, really going to be playing off of those hacks. Haven going to be looking for those opportunities, and Afterlife, Zira, and Rhino will be trying to pounce on them.
They're thinking about it, but one wrong move and catch the wrong end of a focusing beam like you were talking about. There is so much front-loaded damage on this composition to deal with the Winston. But the second Rhino spots the damage coming from the side, decides to dive in, knowing that that Echo's not there to peel anymore. Pulls back as well to find a nice trade and an advantageous position for Afterlife.
Purple comes out onto Rhino. He's going to wait that out, then he's going to jump in, and once he does, they're looking for kills. This is not a soft dive. They're going for at least a little bit of blood. They still have control. They don't want to overextend.
I like the patience, right? Understanding that you did lose a key player early on. Buying space and time to get that spawn in while taking the point over, certainly a win. The team in green, now that they have to reclaim that space, they did give up in order to get that fifth member back in. Slowly aggressing on the point now is Zira. Solidify Rhino. Haven forced back to a translocator, so no dive anytime soon for Afterlife. O3 Splash understand this small beat of tempo that they've gained and look to dive forward. A nano boost onto Echo is countered by an EMP so early from Afterlife. Holy, how did Haven have that? Was that the first ult up?
That one was so fast. I mean, really, it's just the fact that O3 Splash, they can't play aggressive, so they're sitting back. Cowman isn't going to be the one to be making those dives. They're looking to accept them. So by playing back, Afterlife can send Haven forward and can keep applying pressure, go for the reset, keep applying pressure, and there's no real downtime for Haven, and he's taking full advantage of that here as well. And soon enough, you're going to see Pink ready to go with the nano boost. Rhino is going to be let loose.
so many offensive tools available for Afterlife in this fight. 3 Splash not lacking in their arsenal either, though, but they lack the position to really coordinate on a dive. Cowman's already in trouble. Lukewarm's on the other side of the map, and Fix is cornered. Fortunately, a Pulse Bomb will be eaten, given a moment to reprieve to that Brig, but it's still far from over as she eventually goes down and is only traded by the Primal Rage of Echo. Afterlife with gas in the tank and an EMP nearly charged up, have a way back into the fight. Haven taken down, though, that becomes a little bit more difficult.
I mean, both supports are still out for the time being as well, and Cowman really just the only thing that's going to keep them contesting for long here. Obviously, Lukewarm's still alive, but without recall, that makes things a little bit harder. Finally, now those supports are back, and the rally has come along with it.
Rally's up with 20% off EMP, now 15. You can practically count down to the death of O3 Splash. They need to find a way into this fight or to take Haven out of it, and they've done exactly that. Now rallying off the back of that translocator being forced. They know there's an EMP online soon. How well can they actually avoid it, though, is the question. They don't, but they do take down Rhino in the meantime, making the trade very worthwhile. That peel that you were talking about, the whole game plan of O3 Splash comes to fruition, and now they can strike.
Okay, Cowman getting low here, but Afterlife need that kill. They need that D-Mech. Otherwise, this is going to take way longer. And look, the flip already happened here for O3 Splash. They're just looking to sustain. If they can find some miracle way to stay alive and get back into this fight to contest again and hold their credit on the point, oh, they do flip it.
It's flipped, but an EMP comes out and puts an end to things. O3 Splash finally can take a breath.
Oh, man. I mean, that really should have been Afterlife's fight, though. O3 Splash was so low, dangerously so, especially once neutral went down. It was hard for them to actually stabilize, but O3 Splash just disengaged, kited so effectively. Wonder now, though, is it just a matter of time here before Afterlife get that next EMP? Get, you know, even just a Pulse Bomb Nano Boost set up, having Rally to help push things forward and just take those kills and sustain O3 Splash in a really aggressive push. That could certainly end things early.
I mean, winning that extended fight was so expensive for O3 Splash. Yes, they played it well, but it cost them everything to tie a bow on it. Afterlife just throwing ultimate after ultimate unanswered. On the side of O3 Splash, they've got a bomb. Make it 2 to try and pitch into the field, but like you said, that rally and Afterlife just storming forward is completely unanswered. First submap goes to Afterlife.
Really, really strong there for Afterlife as well. I mean, that easily could have been something more like 100 to like 20 or something like that. Had that
Imagine
fight
it didn't
gone
stop
better
at
for
99. It would have been like 200 to 20.
Yeah.
Like, for how long they had that point. Oh my goodness. And honestly, as much as O3 Splash, I want to give them credit for the disengage. Afterlife also chose correctly to extend that fight and chose the perfect time to pull out of it.
Yeah, I think both teams have already, to their credit, both, you know, played those disengages very well, understood, hey, this isn't a winning fight. We need to pull those resources away from our opposition. Otherwise, we're taking a hard L. I think both teams have already displayed the fact that they can pull that off, and they're very cognizant of what the other team is trying to do in any given moment, even in the heat of a fight, mid-fight even. Seeing Afterlife now, they're the team coming out with the Echo. O3 Splash still utilizing that D.Va, and we know that this, you know, going into this, that the Helios pick means that Cowman is kind of forced onto this pick.
I mean, it's just how uncomfortable this map makes them. Just ironic considering Cowman's comfort on this D.Va. I really like the Echo change that O3 Splash had brought to the table. I'm surprised to not see them bring it again on the map where Echo is generally considered to be one of the top tier picks, if not the optimal pick. I think they're onto something with this. Sombra did work well towards the end of the last round. For now, though, it doesn't get too much done. And in the face of Zera's Echo, Cowman's having a hard time really pushing forward.
Yeah, I mean, D-Mech'd pretty quickly there. Still a ton of pressure to O3 Splash's backline. And I think one of the things to the credit of that pick as well with the Sombra is that there's just not as much damage going into Rhino. You're seeing Rhino out in the open. I mean, he's really not taking too much pressure at all.
No, and the tick does eventually go over to Afterlife for that. I think the highlight now for O3 Splash is the fact they managed to build 90% of an EMP before Afterlife got that tick. So their re-engage will come swift, and it will hit hard. It's just a matter of time before Echo gets that ultimate online. It's finally up, and now it's just about choosing their engagement for O3 Splash. No targets are really easily able to be pinned down in a moment like this. Everyone's staying on high ground or far away. Very appropriate for the situation. Afterlife know what they're playing into now. They have a counter dive ready. If they do this wrong, they're going to get a nano boost to their own back line. They could be very deadly. And yeah, that EMP goes out, catches absolutely nothing of what it really wanted. O3 Splash tried to follow up, but the positioning of Afterlife was just pristine.
Oh, Haven.
Close.
A little close. Yeah, a little close on that one. I have to admit, kind of puckered on that one. But nonetheless, Afterlife get the fight win.
Clinch.
Yeah. Afterlife, I mean, it was still a decent setup for the EMP. We saw the backline actually get caught, but Grapes was really quick on that rally to stabilize Afterlife. That was the problem when we saw that, is that if you don't have that initial punch, you're not going to be able to get those kills before the support ults come in and follow up defensively. And now Rhino is going to be able to go ham. Again, you can see him nano boosted, and no one's touching him. Granted, he's not really touching anything else at the moment, but still.
I don't think it's a big deal, though, for Afterlife, who have the ultimates. They had the point coming into this. Positionally, they still are in a pretty good spot. An attempted rally through doesn't really do too much. No 3 Splash fall short yet again. Afterlife, who are kind of running circles around whatever composition they offer up.
O3 Splash falling short, Echo falling off the map. And, I mean, speaking of, I mean, you're going to have Pulse Bomb, you're going to have Self-Destruct. I mean, neither of which, unless you have really good setups, are guaranteed fight winners. Granted, Afterlife doesn't really have anything in the tank here at all for themselves, but O3 Splash, I think they're still going to have to play this really smart. You're not going to overpower Afterlife with ultimates in this fight.
They can overpower them with one. Lukewarm connects a great pulse onto Grapes. Delivers the goods when they need them. However, a trade is eventually found. The Echo duel won by Zira, and quite convincingly at that. That's a position over top of the point for Afterlife that, again, Cowman just can't contest. You see, he can literally contest it, right? He can go up here and attack Zira, but the backline's now vulnerable. Now you're worried about the other members of the team. Haven tries to punish that, but the phenomenal mechanical play by Neutral actually bails them out of this position. That was so awkward initially.
Yeah, I think Afterlife are recognizing the fact that this is a perfect situation for them to just stay back, you know, play slow, look for those opportunities. They're obviously proving that they can find those picks because they can split Cowman away from their primary target. And if they can do that, then the defense matrix won't be there to support, and it's easier to find those kills. The 3 Splash need to find a way to combat that, and especially need to find a way to combat the ultimates that Afterlife are certainly going to be thinking about building right now, and that's exactly what they're going for, especially these support ults.
Yeah, there's a small moment where Afterlife have double support ultimates, and there's no answer here from O3 Splash. O3 Splash are so close to 5 ultimates, but living through this is easier said than done. Cowman first to fall. To the bomb, Remech will buy more time for those ultimates to come online. Remech isn't successful, and the ultimates aren't coming online quickly enough. 93% cascades over the point, and Afterlife can smell blood in the water.
O3 Splash have to find their way over to the objective. There it is. Lukewarm contests. Going to be forced to recall for that. And now Cowman's back in the mix. O3 Splash going to be having to rely on the Pulse Bomb that catches nothing or the dupe from Echo, and he has to go soon.
In the position that they gained, this is at the point it was all just a red herring. Smoke over the water, blinding them from the fact that Rhino was so free to dive into their own backline with the nano boost, cutting off that rotation. And perfectly planned by Afterlife was that fight. Jerks, I'm not gonna lie, Afterlife have really put on a masterclass thus far in pre-fight positioning. Time and time and time again, they are 100% prepared for every single tool that the opposing side is ready to throw at them.
I'll match your honesty with some honesty of my own here as well. I mean, coming, I guess, halfway through that group stage, and even once we got through the entirety of the group stage, I mean, you look at Afterlife and how they were playing and where they were at in the standings, and you could definitely say that, you know, obviously this is a team with a lot of potential that didn't seem to be hitting it just yet. We probably felt the same about Redbirds in this meta. They were late to come into it, and unfortunately for them, it just wasn't all there. They had some tough opponents and they bowed out. Afterlife, though, took that 2 weeks and they excelled massively from where we saw them end in the group stage. And this is a team that I think is playing much closer to their ceiling now than, of course, they were 2 weeks ago, which is really exciting.
What a hot take.
I mean, which is really exciting, though, because, look, this is a team that okay, here's where the honesty is going to come in.
Okay.
This
I'm
team
ready,
looked broken in the group stage.
That is true. Yeah.
This team definitely doesn't look that way anymore.
No, I mean, it was a brutal start, and if Redbirds were scaling, then this team was scaling for late game. Just like turbo waiting for it, holding on to the gas, but they've saved all the fuel for the absolute right moment. And it's come into fruition at a perfect time. Those 2 weeks, they boot camp, they do what they need to, and now it's a completely different roster from what we see. Not literally, but at least figuratively, is, like we said, not just the setups, not just the execution, but mechanically they're on top of it, playing extremely well into an 0-3 Splash that, again, looked really good yesterday, and coming today showing a lot of that same prowess and understanding of how to take these fights. The disengage looking phenomenal for them, yet all of that just fell flat in the face of Afterlife, who are constantly one move ahead.
Yeah, and I think as now we're going to go into that stage where we talked about it. I mean, we even had kind of this same sort of situation, I guess, to a degree, yesterday, especially even with 0-3 Splash, where we go into this kind of, okay, will they, won't they kind of situation with the map pool setup, or maybe not the map pool specifically, but rather the map order, because this could wind up going back and forth based off of which map we're going into, because obviously we know that 0-3 Splash are going to have to rely on Cowman, and Cowman is a fantastic tank, but he's stronger on some maps than others. That's just the nature of the beast, and even Afterlife is kind of dealing with the exact same thing. It is kind of like a give and take, because the hero pools from both of these tanks are going to be so different. However, Afterlife do also technically have Iron on roster, so they can match fire with fire. We'll just have to see where 0-3 Splash want to take us, because we know that any composition that relies on Ramattra, or rather any map that relies on Ramattra comps, that's going to be a place where 0-3 Splash are probably going to excel, I would have to imagine.
That being said, they do choose to take things over to King's Row. I'm not sure there's many great hybrid maps in here for 0-3 Splash, though. Obviously, they like playing that Ramattra. Cowman's done a fantastic job on it, but I think time and time again, especially in Contenders, what we've seen is just the Winston be able to control that high ground, and it may not necessarily be the better choice of composition, but it feels a lot easier to pilot. And I think that's just so true. You have so much more to throw at the high ground. It's no longer try and claim low, force cooldowns, pull resources until maybe your Hanzo hits a pot shot, or their main tank overextends. With the Winston, it's so much more straightforward. Dive the high ground, take it away, set your Hanzo up, and dive the back line while the Hanzo's got the sidelines. The game plan is much easier to execute. And I say this largely because this was something that we saw yesterday kind of force teams to struggle on King's Row, and I worry about that same speed bump.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's interesting here is the fact that yesterday we even saw 0-3 Splash on this map, and this is one that, we actually saw. I believe this was the one that Pirates and Pajamas actually took. So to see us going over to this one yet again, I mean, I imagine this is a case where 0-3 Splash, generally feels pretty strong on this map, and especially against certain teams more than others. But nonetheless, like we said before, this is still, one that I look back on Aiko's history in particular, and it's like, okay, this is clearly somewhere where you can get a lot of value out of this player in particular, not just on the Mei, obviously, which is what we're looking for more often than not, but also on other picks, because we've seen Aiko perform very well on this map in particular on other things. I mean, historically Hanzo, as well as, any of the other picks that we would want him to pull out. I mean, you could even see things like Echo come out on this map, as well as Tracer, Sombra. There's a lot of options for this team still.
Yeah, but a lot of it revolves around what tank they end up going with. And again, Cowman
Fair,
here is
yeah.
usually 100% of the time just limited to the Ramattra. So as much as, a lot of this seem like cool ideas, it's largely going to be just centered around that rush. It goes likely to be playing the main in a lot of these situations. The Hanzo for the high ground control, at least on defense, seems like a pretty good option for them. Up on the other side, though, the world's kind of their oyster. It seems like they're going to come in on what is generally considered pretty strong composition. Rhino can play the Winston, can bring it to this map. They've got a strong Hanzo player, a strong Tracer player to attack that high ground with. It's going to be tough to contend. And that being said, I brought up earlier about, what other maps are in the pool. Blizzard World was available. They could have just gone the full Diva route over there, but chose to opt for this, which, again, leans a lot harder into Aiko and puts Cowman in, I think, rougher territory. Not that the Ramattra is bad for him, but again, playing it into the Winston's a lot harder than playing the Winston into the Ramattra mechanically.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you bring up, because, I mean, going into this, if I was on this team, I mean, obviously they know more about the inner workings of their structure. And they know a lot more than I would of what their situation is. But my assumption would just be, okay, leverage the Diva, even though you have play play things like Blizzard World, go right into Rialto if Blizzard World doesn't go well for whatever reason, as of course, as long as that still looks like a good composition for you to leverage. But there are some good maps that you can get a lot of value. And even you can go over to things like Esperanza or even NQS or something like that to stay away from some of these picks that are going to be a little bit dangerous. And if you want to play things like Ramattra, well, that's fine too, because a map 4 and push, there's a couple of good options there to pull things like that out. So this feels, on paper like a dangerous pick, but maybe it's not. I mean, obviously, O3 Splash, they feel very confident with their Ramattra setup, and we know that Eiko is able to pull off quite a bit on the Hanzo. I think one thing that really worries me is what happened yesterday on this map with O3 Splash getting dove and very effectively dove without really those solid answers. I mean, if Afterlife can pull off something like that, O3 Splash, they clearly have to make some adjustments. Otherwise, they might be pretty solid here instead anyways.
Sorry enough to help.
Yeah, I mean, the loss yesterday can be a bad sign, but at the same time, they also have a very fresh VOD to review. And I guarantee you, by now, if they're picking this map, there is a 110% chance that O3 Splash have reviewed that VOD. So the matchup is fresh in their head. You know what they're doing, but Afterlife offer up a slightly different look than what we got yesterday up against O3 Splash, bringing a Genji and an Echo into the fold, putting them on the flank as well. It's deadly. It takes Echo off the high ground. Rhino's gone, but he'll be back in no time. This is a position that Afterlife can actually hold.
Yeah, they're just going to hold up on the high ground and actually keep... I mean, look at how crazy this position is that O3 Splash are forced into. There's no way they're going to survive long-term here.
Ramattra tries to take back some of that high ground control, but now Calman's down the Nemesis form. A sick dive from Afterlife, set up with some really unique pre-fight.
I love this setup because this feels... I mean, this feels just as much that O3 Splash came prepared and made those adjustments that they needed to make. I mean, it feels just as much that as it does Afterlife watched yesterday, and they were like, okay, we clearly see a vulnerability. Let's really hammer into it. Let's find those dives, and let's jump on those single targets, because O3 Splash are a little bit easier, I guess, than some teams to be able to find the value there.
Already not looking hot for the retake. Eiko's been forced back. Calman, no Nemesis form. Afterlife waiting for the redive. Now Rhino takes away the high ground. Everyone's positioning for basically that exact same dive again into the back line, pulling out an Immortality Field and taking away health bars. This composition, this strategy that Afterlife have prepped for today looks so good. And O3 Splash, I think it's clear to say here, they have been blindsided.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely felt like, again, coming into this, we saw O3 Splash make their adjustments. I mean, we have to give them credit. This is a different comp. These are different looks. Eiko makes that quick swap over to Sombra, not sticking on the Hanzo, which feels very diveable in a lot of these spaces. I mean, it feels like O3 Splash learned a ton from yesterday, but it feels like Afterlife, again, just leaned even, they leaned even harder into that setup that we saw O3 Splash fall to yesterday, and they're really going hard at it. They're continuing to as well.
I mentioned in the last map, Afterlife has just been one step further into the Matrix, right? Their understanding of this match expands beyond that of O3 Splashes for now. It goes EMP counter, but again, doesn't actually deter the push from Afterlife. They're going to spend double support ultimates into this one, looking for that backline again, but the health bars remain up tight for O3 Splash, and it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere anytime soon.
Oh, Zira getting taken down low, but needs to get that health reset. Not going to get it, so Afterlife are going to be down a player here, looking to just kind of stabilize, try to get out. But, ooh, they actually get that pick from Haven. Lukewarm's gone. I mean, obviously, Lukewarm's going to be back very quickly. It is a Tracer, but this does open up a door for Afterlife. It's just about whether or not they're going to be able to get something out of it. Primal Rage now expended by Rhino.
What's also notable about this for Afterlife is that they haven't actually won a fight. I mean, they got a pick there. They had the spawn advantage going into B. But they've gained all this progress just chilling.
Oh,
just playing neutral. Even with Rhino down, they pull away from an Afterlife beautifully. Feels like every single move O3 Splash have. Afterlife are just ready for... They know what's going to happen before it does. They've got Future Sight. Calman now pulse bombed. Half of his health has been taken away without his permission. Immortality Field used, and O3 Splash out of resources. Afterlife almost certainly taking B here.
And that is exactly what happens. I mean, you win one fight, you cap A. That's gonna happen. That certainly happens quite often. But winning one fight and taking B, that does not happen at all. But here it is happening. Afterlife just getting so much value in these like neutral states of fights, not neutral fights, but you know, when you're going back and forth, no kills are really happening, you're poking, you're prodding, but they're pushing the cart all the while. And Afterlife even now are doing that same thing. You're gonna see that EMP coming up from Echo, and Afterlife, we've seen that preparation to deal with those ults. Wondering if we're gonna see that a third time now.
I mean, everyone's either gone or on high ground, inaccessible to a large majority of the players here on O3 Splash. They do bring out an extra Hanzo, though, to help patrol a higher elevation. The EMP they have to worry about. Afterlife backing away. I guess the ultimate is there, though. They are quite clumped up. 4 members caught by the EMP. Rhino dropped extremely low, but because they pushed up so much early, they have so much space to disengage into. EMP does absolutely nothing. Afterlife swings back with a counter punch that may hit harder than anything yet this match. 5 ultimates at the ready, and every last one of them aimed at the spawns of O3 Splash.
Look at this time bank as well. Afterlife want to get as much of this as they possibly can, so that means getting quick kills now.
Owlman trying desperately to keep this point alive. Is to be knocked off the map. Oh, no. It's insult to injury. It's bad to worse. O3 Splash. I've had a 240 time bank put up against them. Afterlife. Every single play was set up. They disengage the Annihilation. They get away from the first EMP. They get away from the one on the final point. It feels like every single blow O3 Splash look to send Afterlife's way. They just catch it in like a whooshy finger hold and like go skadoosh and just like wipe them from the planet. It's not fair. I don't get how they can just do this to a team that's, again, playing pretty well in O3 Splash.
Yeah, I think at this rate, it feels like, I mean, obviously Afterlife are playing, better. There's no getting around that.
Oh,
they're winning for a reason. But the thing is I think a lot of this comes down to prep work. I mean, that's what it feels like to me. You're looking at the compositions, you're looking at the preparation even into fights when you're talking about that fight prep. That's a huge reason why we're seeing Afterlife look so dominant, look so in form, because they are just ready for everything that is being thrown their way by O3 Splash right now. And speaking of, O3 Splash are going to have to throw themselves at Afterlife here on their attack phase. And I mean, we talked about adjustments. We talked about things that needed to change for O3 Splash to find success on this map. Well, I think we're in order for perhaps something to change sooner rather than later here, because, I mean, Afterlife walked through them on their attack.
I like this from O3 Splash, not trying to go into that Hanzo fight on the high ground, turning all of the guns towards Rhino. They tried to do it mass prior, and Rhino was ready for it, changing his playstyle on a whim the second that Echo came out. This time it's Reaper, even more damage being tossed his way. Immediately pulls the escape lever, tries to get out. Grapes not so fortunate, though, puts Afterlife down to 4.
Afterlife definitely not winning this one. I mean, up until this point, it was a deathless map for Afterlife's backline. Pink and Grapes had no deaths through the entire attack. Now, obviously, Grapes has one here. See these sustained fights, and O3 Splash very comfortable in these situations, just trying to disconnect Rhino and Zira from everybody else. And if they can do that, they should easily be able to take this, and that's exactly what happened. So a quick take, that does pose some good news for O3 Splash and what's ahead, because now they can take a little bit more. And once they get those ults, this is a very, very effective comp. That speed is something that O3 Splash are going to really try to leverage between Fix and Neutral.
Well, they're missing speed now. Does make you wonder, though. I mean, obviously that fight, Afterlife gave away a pretty key pick in Grapes. That's not going to happen every time. I can almost guarantee you that. With the way Afterlife are playing, it's been a lot cleaner. O3 Splash have got to find a concerted way to use this damage pressure like we were talking about to win the fight, and that goes front to back. It all goes on to Rhino, who dives away. Half HP has been taken out, but Neutral connects a key headshot. Maybe I'm wrong here, 'cause maybe they can just rely on the power of picks.
Well, that's what gets them ahead here. Fortunately for them, they're not going to be as, I would say, fortunate as Afterlife in the fact that it's, you know, win one fight, take a point. They're going to have to win a couple here to capture point B. Afterlife are going to be able to get back rather quickly. You're going to see, you know, a couple of picks slow down O3 Splash on their push, obviously, here, and that's going to bode really well for them, especially as they can keep getting these. I mean, there's no reason for them to be getting kills there.
Afterlife get picks and make out like bandits. It's insane. That no court progress has been made, bro. Nothing has been gained from that previous fight. Afterlife are proving masters of the objective in this series. It happened in the first map with them running it all the way up to 99 over the course of 1, maybe 2 fights. Same thing happens here. They're capping points in half a fight and defending them with 20.
We got something happening right now. Zira, I'm not going to jinx it. We're not going to say the words, but Zira's stats are starting to look really good. Things are shaping up, and you see some of those picks that happen between fights, not even during fights, but between fights are really helping that work out. I mean, you can already see right there, 12 final blows, 19 elims. We're not going to say the words, but something's going down right now in the team statistics.
Whether it goes down or not, the damage that Zira is putting on is undeniable. The 3 splash currently at the hand of that. Use the Kitsune Rush and the Annihilation. Got nothing but a couple of half health bars for it. Afterlife disengage it beautifully. Pulled back with the Primal Rage, and Rhino wanted to reset his health bar with one more jump there, but wasn't able to at the hand of Lukewarm, offering up yet another massive first pick for O3 Splash. Now they just have to insulate on this part one more time, keep the team alive, and it should push through.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be able to cap this at this stage, and I think more importantly than that even is the fact that they're capping this without having to utilize the sound barrier. That's going to be huge because they want to build off of this momentum that they've created now. They want to be able to go forward, start looking for those picks again, and take advantage of the fact that Afterlife don't really have anything in the tanks here. O3 Splash can make sure to reinforce Eiko's setup, but you see that there is a hunt about to happen here. Zira is looking for someone. In fact, Eiko's doing much the same on the other side. There's no way he gets out there.
Okay.
How?
Oh, unfortunate stuff for Eiko. One flies. Isn't able to kill them. Sound barrier engaged now from O3 Splash. Like you said, all that speed coming in from Fix is the name of the game for them. But since they used their tool so early, they're now lacking into the sound barrier of Afterlife, who do take down a couple of low health bars with it, but are unable to actually catch the end of them. Nobody drops down to 0 for O3 Splash. They pull this into one fight territory, and it's gonna have to be at least that many, because they lose Cowman in the process.
One thing I've noticed too is that with these swaps that we've seen from O3 Splash, where Eiko's playing on the Reaper, we see Lukewarm on the Sojourn, is that Rhino is very much kind of altering how they take fights, how Afterlife is taking these fights. They're playing much more front to back. Rhino not diving in as aggressively, doesn't want to be caught where Lukewarm and Eiko can just 100 to 0 him, but oh man, it's Haven's turn instead to start this one out.
Haven's still just so diveable, such a vulnerable target on the Hanzo. They're looking for vulnerable players, and he pulls all the attention backwards! All of it! The Kitsune Rush meant for the team to go forwards, and Zero's making them look the other direction. They lose a lot of value on that ultimate. Afterlife are given time to respawn in those small moments gained, and now Rhino's health bar is the only thing between them and taking away this fight. They pick that tank back up and hold on strong. Cowman looking far worse for wear now, forced to pop the Annihilation. It's the last real shot they've got at this one, but it has given them a great chance. 2 kills with the critical ultimate for O3 Splash should get them across the line. 2-minute time bank nearing a match of Afterlife's.
What was a blistering pace door? I mean, pretty damn close. For O3 Splash trying to match it. Only 17 seconds separate them. That is incredible. How O3 Splash were able to turn that around. And I mean, as much as we saw Afterlife be able to create these disengages, you know, space out their attacks, and really just kind of outsmart O3 Splash in a lot of their engagements on their attack. Well, O3 Splash on their attack, they go ahead and say, you know what, we see that comp you're running, and we're just going to straight up make Rhino's life the worst thing possible. Rhino just unable to really make a lot of plays outside of turning focus. Primal Rage just really there to buy time because Eiko and Lukewarm are big time focusing.
This is the wrong match. This is... Tweet it again. Tweet it again and we'll pull it back up.
Yeah. I guess there is a bearing on this one though, because I mean Saints did send someone to the lower bracket, and here we are in the lower bracket. So yeah, I mean there's a little bit of play
we got
through there,
Afterlife,
right?
you know, marching on out. It's probably more appropriate than the Saints marching in. Anyways, this one has proven itself to be really interesting, but again, you look at how the teams got it done, and it is so different. Afterlife it felt like Afterlife's push took 2 eons longer than O3 Splashes did. Or rather, the other way around. O3 Splashes felt 2 eons longer than Afterlife's. They had to win so many more fights to actually get that job done. Afterlife have been masters of the map, at least in terms of controlling it, but I think what bailed them out more often than not is that, yes, they're playing phenomenally. Positionally, it's been a masterclass from Afterlife, but positionally, it's really hard to outplay a shot to the head.
Yeah, it's real difficult. And I think another thing too is the fact that, I mean, obviously Cowman now, because he's not having to deal with O3 Splash just accepting so much pressure. Of course, hashtag OWPTP 2023. If you want to give that one another go later when we see Saints again, go ahead and do that. Of course, any other tweets, definitely want to see those as well. But back to my point that O3 Splash, they're not accepting as many dives anymore because Afterlife can't really dive. It's really just Zera trying to make those plays alone because Rhino can't play as aggressively into a Reaper, into a Sojourn as well. So it has changed the entire dynamic, and Cowman is able to, you know, step up and do a lot more damage than he otherwise would have.
I do like this pick, though, from Haven. A lot less vulnerable in the Hanzo. The Coach Gun offers herself a bit more peel when you're playing on the Ashe than a small jump of the Hanzo. Big potential goes down, but we weren't really seeing that from the Hanzo anyways, so any complaints there. Zera as well is going to get some help on the dives because of the damage from that dynamite. So I think all around a good swap, but they still have nothing to really contest this point, at least easily. They try to force back the likes of Cowman, but O3 Splash, we're ready, spinning around, giving a kunai to Zera on his way out. Now the re-engage seems kind of dire for Afterlife. They can go for it, but it's never going to be with the full arsenal.
Grapes went ahead and got himself caught. This time actually got killed for being caught, so Afterlife once again down a player, and it seems like just a matter of time before the Splash are going to be able to take this point.
Just Rhino's health bar that stands between them at this point. Zera as well, though, is back from spawn. Dangerous as ever on top of that. A dynamite lowers health bars, tenderizes them with a pulse bomb, but Cowman can just so powerful on this Ramatra. It's been a valid pick for him for pretty much the entire season, but looks to lead them to yet another point cap. Afterlife are making it quite difficult, though. Rhino's health bar refuses to hit 0.
Oh, Pink almost goes down there. Afterlife need that reset, need that Primal Rage. There it comes in. O3 Splash. You see that purple come out, and there's a kill to go along with it.
Lukewarm down. The Primal Rage with everything they wanted. Cowman's Annihilation wears out on time as well. Can they trade that kill? Absolutely. Afterlife now try and contest this. They know how valuable their own lives are because how far their spawn is. That Bob's going to come in, give them a re-up on the tank numbers as well. Phenomenally played. Great adaptations by Great adaptations by Afterlife. It should, in theory, just be staggers here. Unless Lukewarm can pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Oh,
Kill comes through from the railgun, make it 2. But it takes so much more than that. Lukewarm simply can't do enough.
Oh, man. I mean, it genuinely felt like O3 Splash was going to be able to turn that fight around once Lukewarm got those 2. But again, Afterlife just so composed, even in the face of that threat. Even losing 2 of their players, they able to go ahead and get that sound barrier online, make sure that they can reinforce everybody that was still alive. It was definitely a moment there. There was opportunity for O3 Splash. Unfortunately for them, Afterlife just... I mean,
there were like 3
like
opportunities there
yeah.
for O3 Splash that it looked like they had it.
Unfortunately for them, they did not. But they did get 95.7% in the process, and that is very good news because with this allotted time, anything is possible. I mean, one guy was possible, but didn't actually go through. That maybe they can get a better defense rolling for themselves here. Afterlife, though, I mean, I wouldn't be very surprised at all if they just go in with that exact same comp that we saw them go with. I mean, they're already hovering it right now. But this type of composition, it does 2 things. A, it's very explosive. You can get that early pick, and then you can kind of just go ahead and go for the jugular, or you can play for ults, and you can build to have that blade come up, and you can build to get the primal. You can have the nano boost for the blade or for your Winston. You get that dupe up, you get the sound barrier. I mean, once you build those ultimates, it also kind of feels like an auto win. So it is kind of multifaceted, and I think that's good news for them. And they're even actually going to swap up the Echo. They're going to have the Bob turret come in. Ash going to be coming in for Haven. Oh, getting juked left and right here.
I like the Hanzo, though. 2.5 minutes or so is plenty of time to find a pick with a stray arrow. O3 Splash as well. They're playing a much less diveable composition, right? Something that has a lot more appeal than it did before, right? Last time it came with an Ana, no longer is that there. Neutral can just teleport Suzu out, has a lot of tools to avoid an Echo and a Genji, diving the back line. So Afterlife are deciding to kind of shift where their focus is and try and garner space and then allow Haven to find picks just like that with it. Now they will move forward with all 5 players up against the 4 of O3 Splash. This recontest is going to be very difficult for the defending side.
Oh, Haven took some damage. Lukewarm follows up, gets the kill. Still, though, Cowman taking pressure, not going to be able to get healed. Gets cleansed, though, by Neutral.
Sick Ravenous Vortex pulls Zira from the high ground, the perch she had laid claim to not but moments before. Now the ultimates, though, began to come online. Pink hearing a nano boost. O3 Splash, honestly, a not insignificant distance away from ultimates of their own. It might be a minute before they get them. Pink up to 95%. The Ana with a nano boost now could be the knockout punch. It goes on to 0. The Genji has to finish off health bars here, but doesn't have a dash. Is right-clicking fruitlessly. That hurt to see. I can't believe you get away with that as a Ramatra, but nevertheless, Cowman, playing a fraudulent a character as ever, just holds right-click and denies all that damage. Now looks to fire back at the point with ultimates in hand for O3 Splash. They've got to get Tsune Rush and Afterlife know it.
Pink is the linchpin here. Another big ante could easily spell defeat here for O3 Splash. Rhino, though, very low, so have to be careful with the usage of that biotic. Pink getting back into position here. Blades coming up soon as well. O3 Splash need to be wary of what's to come.
Like this positioning, they know they have one more chance. Cannot give up another pick to Lukewarm, who has been so good in these moments. Zira as well comes up on a blade, getting pummeled by this Annihilation. Tries to slash through it, and again is disappointed at the sight of Cowman holding his arms up. O3 Splash are stalwart on the point, with Lukewarm at their backs as well. They can simply do no wrong on King's Row. An exercise in caution, an exercise in playing safe and holding your ground results in a massive victory for O3 Splash.
Great adaptations throughout the map as well. I mean, we talked about how they suffered a little bit yesterday. We saw the faults. We saw, I wouldn't say mistakes, just the vulnerabilities of the plan and the strategy. It's taken advantage of, but today they came ready. They came prepared. And they even made those mid-map adjustments as well. Those were so important, where we saw them not being as effective to dive. They became a lot more elusive. They were far better at sustaining. They were able to disengage some of those pushes, where you see, especially and probably importantly, Cowman living in that final push was huge. That was massive for their ability to actually go back onto the point and make a play.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm that Genji. I'm like banging my head on a brick wall right now. Like that was so hard to watch. But nevertheless, yeah, props to Cowman for living, and honestly, the support lineup for keeping him alive. One thing I want to point out, though, is again the consistency of Lukewarm in these critical moments. It's not pop off every single fight. It's exactly when they need it, and that's what I love to see in a player. I talk about it all the time about knowing when to make a play, and boy, does Lukewarm know when to make a play. I don't think that overtime push, the second round, actually holds if Lukewarm doesn't push out of Hotel to even out the numbers after the first pick came in from the opposing side. And it's again choosing that moment to stab forward and give your team a chance. Know when to take that risk. Know when to bet it all. Lukewarm, time and time, just continues to give them returns on those bets. Gonna have to do it for a few more maps, so we are 1-1 coming off the first 2 maps. We're heading into a third after a break.
Has your music lately been sounding off? Melodies sounding out of tune? Shows ending without a swoon? Missing your beats? With no way to improve your feats? Well, just you wait until you get your hands on the brand new Overwatch Contenders Lucio skin. Obtaining such a masterpiece is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim each outstanding offer, including the luminescent and lustrous lime locks of Lucio, equipped with the latest and greatest hardware and software. The Overwatch Contenders Lucio skin will be sure to heighten your harmonies and fire up your fans.
You love yourself some Contenders players, but hate it when they join the tournament that you're trying to win? Boy, do I have an offering for you guys. Be sure to check out Overwatch 2's Operation Dive Party. Excludes all Overwatch League and Contenders players. It's going to be running from July 5th through August 12th with a $5,000 prize pool per region that you've got a real shot at because we've taken the good players out.
Sign-ups now open. Definitely head over to overwatchleague.com /EN-US/path to pro for more details, or just visit the overwatchleague.com site. That's going to be the best way to go for that. But diving back into the match here, Dor, I mean, we've got a little bit of a heater coming up because, I mean, obviously Signs of Life for O3 Splash. We had Signs of Life for Afterlife to start with, but now we move into another interesting map pick. It's one that I say is interesting, but we've just seen so much of it lately, actually. Oddly enough, Shambali Monastery coming through actually is map number 3. It keeps happening.
And why?
Well,
Interesting
Afterlife.
pick by Afterlife.
Well, Afterlife, I mean, they do have a swap coming in. So Afterlife have Iron coming in instead of Rhino. So
Okay.
one tank swap. Otherwise, everything else left the same. I don't see any changes here on my other monitor for O3 Splash. So it looks like they're going to be sticking this one out. And I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But Afterlife, this is definitely an interesting decision for them, because of the fact that they are pulling Rhino, they are putting Iron in. We have seen them play with Iron. Iron obviously is an exceptional player. When I talked at the beginning of the broadcast, or rather the beginning of our stint on the broadcast, when we started jumping into this series, I did make mention of the fact that we did have a couple of players that are very used to winning Contenders. Rhino was one, Iron is the other. So, I mean, obviously nothing to be said about Iron, not being worthy. He is a fantastic player, and I imagine that they're going to try to leverage the fact that he is going to be able to match Cowman on a lot of these picks and go toe-to-toe, and we'll see what they're capable of here, because we obviously know that a lot of teams love to play that Ramatra setup, but O3 Splash on the mirrors have looked pretty solid.
Yeah, and like we said, you bring in Iron, they look a lot better on this map. But then you look on the other side, No 3 Splash. This is a map that they're happy to play. I mean, they look phenomenal on it yesterday. They bring a lot.
This might just be their
here.
pick.
It's almost as weird as the Kings Row repick by O3 Splash. So that worked out for them. I suppose this very well could work out for Afterlife. Honestly, at this point in the tournament, anything seems on the table.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny to see these picks come out. We were a little bit surprised by the Kings Row pick, but it worked out for O3 Splash, and we kind of understand why, because obviously Ramatra setups are pretty solid. It is something that they can go for if they want to get away from things like Diva. But for Afterlife in particular, you look at this and again, you say, okay, well, what would be the comfort here? Well, we still probably want to go for things where we can go for Winston maps, I would have to imagine, even though it didn't really work out the last time. I still think that they were very close and still saw a lot of opportunities for them to actually take Kings Row as well. But Shambali is definitely a map where, I mean, the expectation is pretty straightforward. Yes, we've seen a couple of different types of picks come through, but you have to anticipate that it's more likely that we see a Ramatra mirror here than anything else. I mean, obviously, a lot of other things have happened, but that's what my expectation would be.
Now, as we head into Shambali, we can inject all we'd like here, but we see what these teams have to offer up. We won't get to see it. Yesterday, we saw an interesting take on a spawn hold as well that we should bring up before it potentially happens again. Though it didn't really do too much. Got a tweet, though. Let's take a look. Hashtag OWPTT 2023. Nice of them to include it right at the beginning here. Seems like Zero went to the Echo School of Echo.
We did see that mirror happening, and that's Matt Mark, by the way. Yeah, we did see that mirror happening pretty early on, and one that I wasn't really anticipating seeing. I definitely expected that Echo was going to be pulling that out, but seeing Zira come out on it was a little
did
surprising.
Play it first, and then Zira played it, and then Echo matched it, and then somebody gapped somebody, but I don't remember who because it was 2 maps ago.
Already, we've lost the capacity for. I remember that.
I have the memory of a goldfish here, because you have no idea.
Oh, here's another spawn hold attempt here. Haven going for those redirects, and you see actually the teleport come out. So O3 Splash are going to leave Lukewarm behind onto the Widow, and they're going to hope that Lukewarm can just basically shoot into their back. All the rest of Afterlife are just taking a ton of damage.
Afterlife, though, do fight back with damage of their own. Fixed down. They'll be traded. O3 Splash's time that they've taken to put this flank in has proven well worth itself, though. Haven will take 3 with them. I think this should be broken.
Yeah, just a matter of time here. Iron definitely not long for this world at all, but it's just another
time.
Yeah, it's just another great opportunity for a stall, which is going to buy time for Afterlife to get everybody into position. Then Grapes can taxi Iron back over to the fight, and fight position is key here on Shambali. We even saw it in O3 Splash's game yesterday, just how important taking fights in these specific positions where defenses have strengths, how important that was. I mean, O3 Splash might have lost that map had it not been for that factor, the fact that O3 Splash did that and the opposition did not. Afterlife, though, seem to be pretty aware of this, and they're taking these fights on these corners.
Aggressively at that. Annihilation has already been garnered by Cowman, has built up the ultimate so quickly. There's just no answer on the side of Afterlife. Not even Pink got an ultimate up before the Annihilation was available for the Ramatra.
Yeah, O3 Splash just slowing down Afterlife. Afterlife back to respawn, and that's the first cap already. But as we've seen, I would say quite often lately in this meta, this map we do actually find ourselves going to the final section. So this isn't as much the death blow that we've seen in the past, where capturing point A means you basically won the map. No longer is that the case. Now, though, Afterlife still need to find a stop here, and this is their first opportunity.
Yeah, trade Nant Matrix, this shouldn't result in too much unless an Icicle goes astray. The next ultimates coming up that are deadly, though. Both teams sitting on top of a blizzard. In this position, pretty tricky to play it with. 180-degree corner for both sides to work with. It's a Dragon that initiates the fight, though. An aggressive Blizzard from the defending team. They've got a far better position for it. The Blizzard to answer was thrown down directly on top of it, but they tried to peel off damage that was coming from afar with the Blizzard up close. Tell you what, here, that just doesn't work.
And I wonder now, too, I mean, as we get away from that fight and look towards the next, we're seeing obviously a lot of aggression out of Afterlife, just trying to make sure that these fights happen far closer to O3 Splash's spawn so they can pull more time. And they also have a ton of really solid ults to help them sustain through this, two in particular that are going to be massively important.
I mean, this is one of the major things we've seen Afterlife do. But now they pop the Annihilation going into the fight is take these fights forward and try and pull time and cart progress off of the clock. This is something that I think teams are really wising up to a ton lately, especially with the meta being as open as it is. But no team, I think, has shown it to us better than Afterlife.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, because they won that fight so close to the spawn, the cart's been pushing back, and now there might be actually 2 fights that need to be won by O3 Splash to capture this point B, especially with the route that O3 Splash is actually forced to take here. You see Lukewarm, and actually Fix has gone with him as well, working this backside up on the top here. They're going to be able to get that off angle and be a massive threat in this fight.
We talk about these measured risks that O3 Splash are taking, specifically Lukewarm in a lot of these fights. Looking for exactly that in this one, but instead was able to take it front to back. Decides not to take that risk. There was no need. They didn't lose anybody early. Takes a more traditional route at the right time. And again, that's what I love about Lukewarm, is that it's not an overextension when it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I mean, you see him working up that off angle. Afterlife have to concede that top side. They pull back, and that just gives even more opportunity for Lukewarm to press even further. But as we talked about, because of Afterlife playing aggressive earlier on their defense, they now have afforded themselves another opportunity to take a fight here, and that's exactly what they're going to look to do.
Well, it's not going to be a fight for very long. Yurik's Iron's gone. And, well, so's Cowman. All of a sudden, this thing is a clown fiesta. Bullets flying everywhere, but you're really looking at the arrows and the icicles to get the damage done. Lukewarm delivers a digital arrow to the head of Haven. So a physical one. Now the contest is attempted by Afterlife. Iron, though, is quite a ways away from this fight, but does eventually walk the 972 miles required to get back to this cart.
Yeah, that's definitely something.
Lacking in a tank or really trying to find a way back in, but it doesn't seem too likely, especially with that wall sectioning away the Mei, pulling an ice block out early and pushing them back into a blizzard.
Oh, Eiko gets caught, but the damage isn't there. The wall was so perfect. Eiko just defended himself perfectly. Unfortunately, couldn't do the same for Calman. And O3 Splash, they're getting pushed back here. Door, I mean, Afterlife, because of the way that they're taking these fights, and the fact that they can also steal kills when they've lost early. I mean, that pick to answer Iron dropping as they approached on that second fight, killing Cowman, that was so perfect. And now you look at the economy and things look even better for Afterlife now. Obviously, they still have things that they have to contend with from O3 Splash, and I think the big thing here is obviously the support ults, but more than that even is Lukewarm, who's working that same angle as before. We saw how effective it was last time the overclock came out over here. And they're just going to go ahead and say, no thank you, not again.
Block that side lane, force Lukewarm down the center of the map. O3 Splash had less ultimates coming in this, like you said, but that doesn't mean they're lacking in them. Spending a sound barrier and an Ant Matrix early on, as well as the overclock, they have thrown it all at the wall. Nothing really stuck here, Hurix. Now it's Afterlife's turn to try and answer back, but a blizzard stands in their way, and that's the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Afterlife, I think still a win for them, though, in a lot of cases. Obviously, O3 Splash, they get to move forward, and that's the obvious victory here. But I think underlying that is the fact that O3 Splash did have to spend quite substantially to be able to get to this stage, and they still want to be able to push into this final stage of the map and get some value. Silver lining there is the fact that Afterlife did match a lot of those resources, so we'll have to see. Now that it is close to a neutral fight, certainly not a neutral fight, as Cowman's going to be getting Annihilation up here pretty soon and probably expending it.
I don't think Annihilation's so scary into a team that can slow you so effectively, but a pick on to zero. All of a sudden, there's no more slow for the Ramatra. No wall to keep anything away. No blizzard to peel off the rest of the team. O3 Splash cascade forward. They've got tools up to keep this thing going.
Blizzard soon to come up for Zera, but they're going to still need to close that distance, and Zera has to live. Might have Blizzard coming out of it.
A huge immortality
like that.
field. It keeps Zera alive in order to get the Blizzard off. That was massive by Pink.
Now death timing's going to be massive here as well. Lukewarm. I'm not sure if... Oh, Lukewarm did actually get out. I wasn't sure if they were hiding or if they actually did manage to get all the way out. But someone has to touch now. We're going to see Cowman swap over to the ball to try to accomplish that task. 5 seconds left here, and it's all on Cowman to try to get that contest, and they accomplish at least that.
Successful in that much now that they have to contend with the Dragon. So many ultimates that can buy space here for Afterlife. The Dragon thrown in cuts the supports away from the rest of the fight, blocks the sight line of that Implication Matrix, which can do more than you might actually think it does. But Iron as well just avoids the sight line altogether. Walks out the Nemesis form behind the curtain, calmly takes a win here for Afterlife. Well played, but I think there were a few opportunities there to get a stop earlier for Afterlife that they're probably kicking themselves they didn't.
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, O3 Splash, we saw them get a lot of cart progress off of fights. I mean, really where Afterlife was playing well, but O3 Splash just found a couple of picks, and we saw that early momentum really play in their favor. I mean, that early cap of point A, not being able to take away much of O3 Splash's time early in that map, where you see a lot of teams fall victim to that. That did not play well for Afterlife, and yes, they get their stop, but O3 Splash might have done a little bit too much damage already here.
Line in the sand has been drawn, though. O3 Splash pushing 2 and about 3/4 of a point. Afterlife with plenty in the bank, though, that they've shown us. If Kings Row tells us anything here, it's we can't judge these maps by the first pushes that they offer up to us, especially with these two teams.
Yeah, we already saw it on Kings Row where it was like, okay, there's no way a team is going to be able to come back and match that. And while O3 Splash didn't match it, I mean, fell a little bit short, but not by much, and then they still won the map. So we're definitely moving past doing that kind of prediction, because that's just not going to work out with these teams. You can see O3 Splash. I mean, they're sneaking up for a little bit of a stall play here. I wouldn't call
Nobody's
this necessarily...
ever see this coming. There's
Yeah,
no
no-
way, Jerks. This is
It's
innovation at its finest.
I wouldn't call this a spawn camp because it's not literally in the spawn. This is more of a stall setup for the cart. But yeah, everybody does this, so that I don't even know if you really need to sneak at this point.
No. O3 Splash, though, for a small tidbit of information, actually did do this wall hold yesterday. Like you said, more of a stall hold than a spawn hold. Lukewarm, though, extends it to a respawn hold for Haven.
And Afterlife, it's not going to have that damage threat on the off angle, and Lukewarm has, I mean, absolutely come alive now.
Let the man cook! Let the man cook! Keep him coming. One more. Lucky.
It's not going to happen. 40 seconds, though, drained, and O3 Splash basically gave up nothing for that. Finding those opening picks. Now Haven making a swap. They have the Hanzo ready to go here, and that same off-angle threat, I mean, that's still going to be a factor here for Afterlife, but O3 Splash have consistently found these answers. They just sent Lukewarm on these flanks, and he's landing the shots.
Same as last round. It's going to be Cowman coming up with the first ultimate. I mean, normally when you lose the first fight, your supports are ahead in ultimate charge, but Neutral's keeping up with Pink. Pretty much percentage point for percentage point. Both of them are going to pop those Implication Matrix almost certainly. Even with Echo down, O3 Splash feel like they've got a snowball's chance at this one as they throw all the damage at Iron. With Neutral down, though, it spells the end of the hold. I don't think that's something that O3 Splash are particularly sad about, though, considering the results.
Yeah, I mean, you take away almost half of the time bank from Afterlife, you're going to be able to come back into this next fight and for the most part, match ultimates. I mean, you are ahead in the Blizzard as well, and that's going to be very important. We'll see O3 Splash step up pretty soon here. You can see Afterlife looking to take away some of that space, make sure that O3 Splash have to play further back, which means that this is going to come down to maybe just one single fight unless O3 Splash can get a stop here.
O3 Splash, you look for a stop. Lukewarm on another one of those flanks that are becoming all too familiar for Afterlife. It forces out an immortality field, but not much more than that. Does get Pink eventually, though. Nobody actually ever goes to deal with Lukewarm. And the flank starts, middles, and ends the fight.
Yeah, Lukewarm in just a prime position. Only 3 deaths on this map right now, but 24 limbs, 13 final blows. Crazy amount of damage dealt as well. I think for O3 Splash, I mean, they actually might have been able to get away with that last fight without spending one of Cowman's or Fix's ults, but they spent both of those as well. So now Afterlife coming into this fight, we're going to see those DPS ults catch up. They have both of those available, and they're probably just going to strong arm those, try to brute force their way forward.
Brute force they will. Blizzard on the Cowman, just catches the tail end of the Ramatra. They're not able to finish off the health bar. It pulls resources from O3 Splash, but not kills. Now Afterlife looks to push that advantage into a full take. They don't have the health bar advantage anymore, at least not on anybody other than Fix. Gotta throw in more, double down, pop an amplification matrix as well into O3 Splash, who just take it. This team seems invincible right now. They answer with one of their own, and now it's a Blizzard coming the way of Afterlife with 35 seconds on the clock. This could be a knockout blow.
Oh, at the very edge, Iron gets caught. They're getting the kills.
It's everything over for Afterlife. 20 seconds on the clock, and the players scramble back for one last chance.
Oh, they got to scramble quick, too. I mean, it's not a lot of time to rotate, get into position. You don't have ults to overpower O3 Splash. Lukewarm is so close as well to that overclock. On top of everything, O3 Splash just have great positioning, ready for this next fight. 5 seconds here. Someone has to get that contest. The wall goes up, makes it a little bit harder, but they get it anyways.
It's a little close, and they spent a lot of cooldowns getting there. Nemesis form, wall, ice block, speed. Afterlife have got to buy a lot of time before they find a re-engage here. And even in that time, they're going to have to get through an overclock from Lukewarm, something that has been so deadly for so long. Lukewarm, though, at the same time, could deliver onto O3 Splash a match point. Annihilation popped. Back goes Lukewarm. Overclock out, and it needs to save the day now because Aiko certainly isn't from spawn. Looking for an angle around the side of the wall as the overclock falls off. Does eventually find Zera. Evens up the numbers. Takes both Mays out of the equation, which frees up both of these tanks. Iron and Cowman are going ham on one another's backline, but an EMP saves the day for Afterlife. Takes down the tank and buys them a B point more than likely.
Oh, a potential sigh of relief,
Maybe?
but they still need to find these last couple of kills. O3 Splash are making trades, and they have respawn advantage.
Oh, it's just Haven.
He might be the only one
They can't
left.
touch! Afterlife! They can't get there! O3 Splash have done it! And it all started out again with Lukewarm leading the charge with the overclock. Cowman buys so much space. But at the end of the day, it's the damage being dealt not just by the DPS line, but the back line as well of O3 Splash. Get in on the action there at the most critical of moments, at the most critical of junctures in the bracket. They give their team a much-needed map point.
BAP just doing BAP things up top as well. Just being able to go up to that high ground, remain untouched. So impactful. And then also just the respawns, being able to get there so much faster for the defense makes those trades a lot more impactful for that side. Lukewarm, what an incredible journey he's had so far in this playoff run for them. I mean, we kind of knew coming in that Lukewarm was going to be someone to watch, but has really taken the limelight, certainly these last 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday it took some time for Lukewarm to heat up, right? Like, it started out pretty cold, and then towards the end of the match, it started. I'm not going to. I'm not going.
Okay,
I held my tongue. I held my tongue. I thought about it. Heated up towards the end of the match, but it feels like he came into the match today on that same form, and it continues to improve. And I'm not gonna lie, most of Shambali, like half the fights that were being taken away with a win at least for O3 Splash, was just Lukewarm mashing the potatoes of Afterlife. Like, there was just nothing else to it.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to match as well. I mean, when you see someone going on those hyper flanks, you typically like to send one person to deal with it. But the thing is that Fix has also been in those situations with Lukewarm. So when Lukewarm presses forward, not only does he have the backup of someone on his team, but he also has speed, so they have disengage opportunity if needed. And Fix can go back and forth between their main 3-stack core and, you know, maybe going for either a 4-1 split or a 3-2 split. Fixes that mobile, and Lukewarm is that easy to support, I guess. I mean, he's just so solid when he goes for these hyperflanks. Teams are really struggling to deal with it. We've seen 2 now in a row really struggle.
Yeah, I think you have to give just as much credit to the core of that team. Aiko, Cowman, and Neutral just
Yeah, they
staying
gotta enable
alive
it.
while he's over there. It's so much easier said than done. But I think the trick of it is Lukewarm, like any good lurker in any video game, kind of understands the pacing of when you can and can't take space. I talk about it as knowing when to bet it all in a lot of those clutch situations, but at the same time, Lukewarm is almost never overextending. It is the perfect amount of aggression, only taking the space that is given and forced out by the rest of his team, and it makes it not just a mechanical, but a positional masterclass in how to flank appropriately. And please, I wish my ranked teammates would take some notes.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to balance. It's a tough rope to walk on, but it's one that I think we're going to get another opportunity to potentially see here for Lukewarm. We're going into a map number 4. This is match point here, though, and remember, this is a lower bracket, so if we see Afterlife take a loss on this map pick, well, they'll be out of the tournament, and they are going to be making a little bit of an adjustment coming into this one. Iron is going to be coming out. Rhino is coming back in, and I mean, I want to say that this is going to be them going in and just going ahead and saying, we're going to throw out that Winston comp. We were real close on Kings Row. We know how strong it is on this map, and we have some practice with that. Let's go ahead and throw that.
Yeah, I think it's just straight Winston composition. I think it's probably back to the Sombra Tracer. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And yesterday we saw O3 Splash pull out not the Winston composition on this map, so generally what we consider to be a less optimal composition here, even if it is still playable. They found a win with it, which was close, to say the least. To do the same against Afterlife, though, is maybe a higher bar to try and pass. This team is proven very good positionally, and this is a map that offers up a lot positionally with those initial high grounds for the Winston to play around.
Yeah, I think one thing about Afterlife is that you also have a little bit more consistency in history with playing things like those Winston setups. I would say maybe less so to Haven and Zera, because their history in Contenders hasn't necessarily been that. We've been seeing them play, last year with Reinhardt's and, Divas and Junker Queens, so maybe a little bit less so from them, but I don't think that they're far removed from being able to play this kind of stuff at all, and certainly with a player like Rhino, they have the capacity to really play well off of each other. They have that existing synergy, and now even more so that they've been able to spend the last 2 weeks even to help develop. Things should look pretty good here for them in terms of utilizing this Winston composition and leveraging its strengths. I think one thing we saw yesterday was that Strider was very impressive against O3 Splash when we saw him on the Winston, but that team is definitely not a Winston team. I mean, it surprised everybody when they pulled it out.
Even their opponents weren't expecting it in that situation. I think this time they know exactly what they're playing into. Question is it of high enough quality? Again, I'm rooting for what we saw initially roll out on Ilios with the Sombra. It looked incredible. Haven was putting up a masterclass in how to build EMP charge and abuse an enemy team. We get a little bit more of that. O3 Splash is a supreme brawl team. Honestly, I can't argue with that. With what they're pulling out right there, with what they've offered up to us so far, they've looked really, really good on the Ram comp.
Yeah, think about how incredible it is, too, to think about. I mean, coming into this, we had a couple of teams that stood out as, okay, that is the Brawl team, right? I mean, Trick Room was the primary one. I think when we think about Brawl teams, that's the one that we look to. But a few teams have kind of caught up, and a few teams look very formidable in these styles. And O3 Splash has been, I think, the most surprising one because, I mean, as good as we know Cowman is and his capacity to pick heroes up and play things like the Ramatra, obviously a newer hero, into the mix, I mean, O3 Splash has done very well with this composition and outplayed a lot of teams that, going into this tournament, maybe would have been considered favorites coming in.
Just like we expected, not a mirror matchup by any means. Rolls out onto the field. This time with both Lukewarm and Echo on the damage. They learned this on Kings Row. Put the focus on Rhino. This map is much less constricting, though, than Kings Row for the likes of Afterlife. And the composition is far different. No longer is that Hanzo there to look for picks, right? It's traded out for a Sombra, something that's going to offer more flanks that O3 Splash have to deal with. So as much as their answer is the same, the problem isn't exactly the same, at least not word for word.
See Rhino trying to walk that line, just like Lukewarm has done in the past with his pushes. Rhino has to do the same on this Winston. You can see him playing far more defensively, far more, I wouldn't say passively, but
mean, if you dive that high ground, you're dead.
Yeah, you literally get deleted. So
You cannot dive that high ground. He's got nowhere to go. They're going to play neutral here for quite a while, but this is something Afterlife are okay with. They understand that as long as Rhino lives here, they will eventually come up on an EMP, and that's when they can actually afford to dive that high ground. So Afterlife may look like they're kind of stuck, but that is absolutely not the case. They need to try and hold this space, but have been unsuccessful in doing so in the face of Lukewarm, who finds a massive pick onto Haven.
I think just biding their time, waiting for that opportunity. Both sides even actually kind of doing the exact same thing, but O3 Splash just, of course, knowing that they can't do that forever because, yes, that EMP will come. You'll see the nano boost coming. That's when Rhino's able to break out of those neutral positions, those defensive holdings, and then make some plays. O3 Splash found that perfect opportunity in between those two phases to be able to take advantage of. And look at the value that they got as well. I mean, almost 40 meters after that first fight.
I mean, on the high ground is Rhino. Lukewarm, though, look at where he repositioned to. All the way up in the main choke point. O3 Splash are pulling out some creative positions here. I think the one thing they didn't account for, though, was the CMP. Because they clumped up in that main choke point, they were so vulnerable to it. They've lost a few to it, given away their high ground, and now the later the fight goes, positionally, it's not really looking great for them because they gave up the high ground in order to dodge the nano boost.
Yeah, that's huge as well, because not only that, but they also try to save that fight with their sound barrier. Granted, they did pull Grapes at the very end, but 3 Splash
Could've been bad.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been certainly a lot worse than it wound up being with Afterlife going ahead and throwing stuff in at the very end when they maybe didn't need to, but nonetheless, Afterlife going to be able to utilize this high ground now, look for these reset positions, but it's really just going to be the Primal Rage here for Afterlife to try to get this fight win.
The clock from Lukewarm has been so good in this matchup. That feels like probably an understatement, Jerks. This time, I think Afterlife learned their lesson, decided to just not face it at all. Still yet lurking in the waters beneath is Lukewarm. Tries to find Zero, overextends for it though. Annihilation from Cowman. Tries to even out the playing field. Will get some cart progress, but Afterlife disengage it.
I still think that's not a bad fight, though, for Afterlife. I mean, they should have hard lost that one, and now they can reinvest. Now they can turn the tides a little bit here.
Oh, they got away from a ton of ultimates. They avoided the overclock. They avoided the annihilation. They re-engage with nothing and get something. So, usually pretty profitable.
Yeah, you can see Zira once again putting in a great performance. Did not get the deadlift that we were looking for in that other map, but nonetheless, still opportunity left in the tournament for him. At least for the time being, they still have to win this map to be able to go forward still, but nonetheless, looks like they're going to be able to... I don't think they're going to match. I think O3 Splash are going to go for the contest. In fact, they do, Afterlife pulling back, and this is just such a wise decision for them. They need that EMP. Haven is so close to it. It is ready now.
Questions, are they ready? In the face of this ultimate, Death Blossom used, trying to take down Pink at range, but it's bubbled off wisely by Rhino, preventing any further damage onto the team. This has been some sick Winston play thus far in the fight. Basically denies all the value that O3 Splash were looking for. Neutral, now the next in is Monkey Sights. Does eventually go down, and Cowman will follow. This is almost certainly a lead for Afterlife, if not more than that. Possibly a point? Cowman takes a second to get back. It'll be close.
Well, we do see Echo in the vicinity, but they really just need to pull that cooldown away. Just get that Wraith form out early so that there's no contest. Oh! We actually see a kill onto Haven, so yeah, no point cap, no lead, nothing is going to be gained here for Afterlife at all.
Now their Splash are coming in with double support ultimates, Annihilation, Overclock, so much available. Afterlife certainly have tools, but that sound barrier from Grapes is going to have to do a lot of work if they want to win this fight. You're looking at the Lucio, particularly clutch in this moment. Holding a position on the high ground valiantly, forces out a teleport from neutral. Nemesis form has already been used by O3 Splash, so resources have been committed, but they still have those ultimates up their sleeve, in their holster. Unwilling to spend them.
They have to be careful here.
Yeah, if you overextend it is Death City Population U. O3 Splash, though, don't commit until they absolutely must. They know they're the leaders of this map. They're saying, Afterlife, it's your job to engage onto us. Rhino obliges, picks up 2 with a Primal Rage. Make it number 3! It's been lukewarm all day for O3 Splash. Rhino is the one who answers the call.
huge plays from Afterlife. Spent 3 ultimates just right out of the gate, just immediately obliterated O3 Splash, and it looks like it's just a guarantee at this stage that they are going to be able to take the lead here, and a possibility that they could get the cap. I think O3 Splash would be wise to contest, and that's exactly what they do. But look, O3 Splash didn't spend in the last fight. If they can deal with this EMP, they can win the fight one still.
EMP is good. Sound barrier is better. Fix. Didn't need to spend it in the fight prior. Does it result in a win, though? It does. They've had to commit everything, though. That is every card played, spent, put on the table for O3 Splash.
They can start sending this thing forward. Oh, Afterlife should be able to get back rather quickly, but look, there's nothing in the tank really for either team here. Pulse Bomb at the ready for Zira, but unless that gets a stick, very unlikely that it gets a kill. Neutral can neutralize that ultimate specifically.
Point cap gain now for O3 Splash. Afterlife are forced back. Spawn advantage is the big thing that nets them, though. O3 Splash have made this a much more defensible position than it was before. They're feigning a pulse bomb towards high ground now. Regroups with the rest of the team, looking for a way to drop from the high ground. Afterlife being preempted, though, by O3 Splash, who dive forward onto their backline. Rhino tries to peel it, but is met with all 5 members of the opposing side. All of a sudden, those flankers are miles away, unable to help, and O3 Splash have a comfortable position on the cart, albeit maybe losing 1 player in the process.
Yeah, I think at this stage, O3 Splash are going to be able to win this fight and start sending this thing forward. And this is a concern now, because once you get down under 2 minutes, if things are on your side of the map and you still have to push, I mean, Afterlife are exactly in that position. On this map in particular, that does not look good for you, because look, you still have to win this fight on your side. O3 Splash are still pushing it, making it even harder for you to get it back to neutral. They have a spawn advantage, and you have to win fights after that.
I get it, Jerk. It's hard, and it's going to be difficult. Never an easy road making your way back on a push map, especially with O3 Blast. O3 Splash, rather, have quite the lead. Fight win is a fight win. It's a good start for Afterlife. You mentioned they get to hold a couple of ultimates in the meantime. This wasn't particularly expensive for them.
Yeah, not at all, and they need to continue to have fights like this, because obviously they are sending it back the other direction. The pendulum is swinging that way. Such a good play from their supports. I mean, both of them to be able to make that work. But Afterlife, they are going to be able to get this bot back to that neutral position. Likely reset that spawn advantage, but still have so much ground they have to cover, and includes that cap as well. But
look,
this is going to be something good for
oh
them. I love this.
God, that's illegal. Not that you can't do that. You can't stand there. It's pixel walking. Get him. It's Haven boost. I don't even know anymore. That shouldn't be there, man. How do you know that exists? Only Somber players know that exists. But it results in a massive win for Afterlife. 1 ult spent, 1 fight won. This is exactly what they needed. Oh, such a late stagger too.
That is
they're gonna make this painful. Ow! Oh.
This actually is a really good spot for Afterlife to be in too, because now you've won 2 fights in a row, you get the cap, and now it really comes down to this fight. This is going to be the last fight. If Afterlife win this one, almost a guarantee they win the map. If O3 Splash do it, well, guess what? They're going to win the map, obviously. However, Afterlife got to this point winning 2 fights in a row and still have ult economy. That is going to be huge. They might even have 4 of their ultimates for this last fight. They're taking their time. They want to make sure that they have everything prepared. This is all or nothing now.
You have to do it right. Neutral, first to go. Afterlife have the end of the map in their sights. They do not feel like letting this tournament go. Not like this. They rise from the ashes, just like many times before. Team and the dominance in their past echo into their futures. They here envision the line in front of them. An EMP that could be the trump card they need, but O3 Splash get 1 last jab with a Kitsune Rush and an Annihilation, both being popped in the so much space. A sound barrier looks to see them through some of it. It wears the Annihilation away, but they've lost Rhino. Now the DPS have got to come up with something big. Haven's 10% away from an EMP, but it seems just far too distant. O3 Splash are not thinking about the future. They're thinking about now, and now's their moment to step forward into the bracket, into that lower Bremi, where they deserve to be.
Another big win for O3 Splash. I mean, I gotta say, they probably feel very fortunate to be able to get out of that one because, man, if that went to control, that would have been dangerous as well. It seemed like Afterlife really were hitting things exactly how they needed to at the very end. I mean, winning 2 fights like that, basically 3 fights actually in a row, but that disengage from O3 Splash, so aware of the situation that they were in, gave themselves one final opportunity to get back in, and they had those ultimates available as well. The pressure exactly where they needed it to go. They pushed Rhino out of the fight, then followed it up and got the kill. I mean, clinical job there for O3 Splash to finalize this lower bracket game.
And it's just ice cold stuff. I mean, you brought up to do that in the final moments of the map in a lower bracket matchup like this, when you have control looming in front of you, that has been so good for Afterlife. It's like, you just don't expect people to do that, to be that calm in moments that critical. Time and time, O3 Splash have done it. And so often with Lukewarm at the helm, who fortunately we'll get an opportunity to talk to, because I need to peer into the mind of a player who is central to the strategy of O3 Splash thus far.
Yeah, definitely. I would say even more so today than we even saw yesterday. And that's saying something because Lukewarm was actually kind of popping off yesterday to a large degree. We saw him getting a ton of value on some of those deeper flanks. And today we got actually way more than even that on a lot of those big plays. But we're not going to waste too much time here. We're going to send everybody to a quick break. When we come back, though, we will have that interview as well as another match to follow. That's right, we got 3 today. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a bit.
Tracer has quickly become one of the most popular heroes in high-level Overwatch 2. It takes insane mechanical skill, cerebral game sense, and ice in your veins to make impact plays with her, but these players make it look easy.
Maimon and Vestal are just playing off of each other perfectly.
W Maimon, by the way, found one who built that Transcendent. And a pulse bomb connects onto both Fuki and Turkey. W Maimon on this map on Havana truly has been next level.
And just as their eyes glance away, a pulse bomb connects to the back of their head. Canale and Cookie hit the dirt. Rocket's trying. Rocket could be a hero in moments like these. Rocket saved the day again! Rocket's gonna chase him out too. Oh, and he Tracer gaps him. Yeah, Rocket's that guy right now. And welcome back, everybody. As promised, an interview with Lukewarm.
I think it's well warranted as well because Lukewarm, man, what a performance today. I'd say congratulations on the 3-1, but it seemed inevitable at the end, especially for the quality of play that you guys were offering up. We've seen your Sojourn heat up over the course of the past 2 days tremendously to the point where the Heroics tonight was becoming basically just the core piece for what made your team comps work a lot of the time. Is that been the focus for you guys? Is that where you look to get your wins from, especially like this?
Yeah, to be honest with you, over the past couple of weeks, I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like any comp that I play where we're not like focusing kind of like on a core piece or like a core Sojourn in this instance, it's like I just kind of can't understand what the win con is whenever I'm not like the focus. Yeah, it just makes it so much easier for me to understand. So it's like whenever I'm there, I'm just like,
I'm
okay,
the carry. Okay.
all I have to do is kill them, and it'll work out, you know.
Yeah, I mean, also today, Dora, remember what your actual name is, you know? I gotta stir the pot. We already hashed it out, but I gotta stir the pot. I just have to do it. But yeah, you guys had a great performance today. This is yet another big win for you guys. I think coming in, for your team in particular, there was some question marks in terms of, you know, what kind of team was this going to look like? Obviously, Cowman, there's a ton of responsibility on his shoulders to kind of run the gamut in terms of tank. I mean, what was preparation like for you guys coming into a game like this where obviously there's a lot you have to adapt to in this meta, but you guys still look fantastic?
To be honest with you, I was just like, all of our preparation was just like, do not play D.Va comp into this team. Do not play D.Va comp because they are.
We had this conversation on stream actually.
Yeah, we're like King's Row when Blizzard and Rialto are sitting right there, and you guys don't want to pick a D.Va. What? Can you go further into that? Like, why not the D.Va comp?
If you want me to be a little bit personal about our scrim history, we have not exactly been performing on the D.Va maps against that team. So it's like.
Really?
Okay, to be honest, when they took us to Shambali, you should have heard our voice comms. We were literally like Shambali? What? Like, we just won. Because they took us to a brawl map and
anything but Rialto, basically.
I hope that the other teams aren't listening to this, but you know.
Well, they are, so that's unfortunate.
Looks like we're gonna have to.
You said it was specifically in your scrims against them that you were.
That's true. Okay, actually, that is true. Yeah. No. We actually do very well against other teams in D.Va comp, but like that team for whatever reason.
That makes sense. Yeah, it
insane.
seems like you guys should be good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from that, though, because obviously, you know, it seems like a lot of your guys' value that you get in a lot of these brawl situations are actually coming from a Sojourn. And we've seen kind of both sides of things in terms of Sojourn, Hanzo, Ashe. Those are all the different looks that we've seen. What is it about Sojourn for you specifically that feels like it just kind of gets more value? Is that just something for you personally, or do you think it's more of a character thing?
I think it's just... I just click people, you know?
Yeah.
Whenever you're playing like Hanzo, you're playing Ashe, it's like 2 headshots, and also it's like you have to peek for longer, and like it's like it just feels less. I don't know what the word is. Less burst, I guess, and also it's like Hanzo feels less reliable. If I'm able to, you know, hit Kovacs for 20 days straight, and then show up the contenders and just, you know, click ahead, you know, it is what it is.
I mean, how much of a factor is the fact that you can be enabled in some of those like hyper flanks that we saw, especially on, you know, Shambali as a prime example. We saw that today and yesterday, actually. These insane flanks that you go on, especially towards like the second point area. Is that also like a major factor, or just something that you just kind of do like whatever?
Dude, I love doing those plays. You know, we actually coined it. We coined it the Vision play, because I don't know if you've ever watched Vision.
Yes.
We are too familiar. Yeah.
But like I called it the Vision play. I'm just like, fix on me, Vision play right now. We walk around the corner and I just press Q, and no team has really like known what to do so far. I mean, hopefully they don't figure it out. But you know, it's just nice. It feels good.
They've only got a few days, you know. It's
That's true.
They're running out of time to figure it out, but I think some credit is to be given to the core of your team for managing to stay alive, because you and Vix, yeah, you're going off, having fun, doing your flank, playing your Kovacs, this, that, and the other, but the rest of your team is staying alive with a core of 3. What kind of goes into that for them? Are they playing more passive in order to enable that?
Yeah, because, I mean, if I go in a flank and they're down 2 people and they just, like, you know, use all their cooldowns, or they're just, like, standing in the open for no reason, then, like, whenever I go on the flank and we coordinate like 3, 2, 1, I'm going in. It wouldn't be as strong if we didn't do it at the same time, or if like, you know, we're missing like Ram Shield, Ram Form, Mei Wall, you know, Ram Slow. I think I already said that, but you know, yeah. you get the idea.
And we don't actually get to do this all too often. So obviously you guys get your big win, but there's still two teams that are, waiting to move in and be your competition. When you look at Trick Room and Wisp, those two teams that are going to be in that other lower bracket quarterfinal, who are you expecting to move forward? And actually, I guess, who do you want to see? Who do you want to compete against for this one?
I need the Trick Room run back. I don't think you understand.
I know what happened yesterday.
Game 5 last map. I just couldn't, dude. I actually shut down after we lost that. I went into the yesterday, like it was also streamed us versus Pip. I was the saddest you've ever seen me in my entire life. I'm just like, oh, I guess I'll shoot him. It's just I don't know. I really need the run back. Honestly, I feel like Wisp is they play a little bit more like mechanically intensive comp, but I feel like for Trick Room, they are just so good at macro. That's the team that you go to if you want like actual team play. I'm praying they win, to be honest.
I hope so, because that means we get to watch the run back at the same time. That being said, Luke, we appreciate you popping in for the interview. Congratulations on a fantastic bit of play today, and yeah, best of luck in that future match. Hopefully it's Trick Room for you.
Thank you.
All right, Yerks, that leaves us to our tidings, as we've got plenty more to come. Like we said, we've got a big matchup coming up next. Trick Room up against Wisp in the lower bracket of all places. This is going to be a treat. See you after the break.
Has your music lately been sounding off? Melodies sounding out of tune? Shows ending without a swoon? Missing your beats? With no way to improve your feats? Well, just you wait until you get your hands on the brand new Overwatch Contenders Lucio skin. Obtaining such a masterpiece is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim each outstanding offer, including the luminescent and lustrous lime locks of Lucio, equipped with the latest and greatest hardware and software. The Overwatch Contenders Lucio skin will be sure to heighten your harmonies and fire up your fans.